Okay. So good morning, everyone. Today's Thursday, August 22nd, 2019. The time is 9 a.m. This is our week of community development, deliberation, and update. And I'll first call for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Zachary, would you lead us? New guy.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So attending are Commissioners Duncan, Brooks, and Filios. Do we have any conflicts or potential conflicts of interest?
No.
None. Okay. So, but before we go into deliberations, I'm going to ask Director Callahan to introduce our new employee. Is that correct?
Oh,
Yes.
Zachary is just this week, Tim, right behind me in blue, Sherry Trevino, and has a master's, as I recall, in urban planning from UC Berkeley?
UC Irvine.
Irvine, but you went to Berkeley for undergrad.
Correct.
Okay. And we are jazzed to have him. He already has shown skill sets that will be extraordinarily useful.
Okay.
So thank you for making
What
this
is your
happen.
title position?
Planner 2.
Really?
Puts him on the fire with,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, again, welcome.
Thank
We're
you.
glad to have
Very
you.
much.
Thank
It's
you
good to
for
be
joining
involved.
us. And I should also say that we're being joined by Deputy Civil Prosecuting Attorney Pat Braden. Okay, so the first item on our agenda for deliberations and potential action is case number MSP 19-0001, Garnet Ranch. A request by Crystal Creek LLC for preliminary approval of a major subdivision consisting of 25 residential lots, and 2 open space tracts on approximately 166 acres over 3 parcels of land. Go ahead, Vlad, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Vlad Finkel with Kootenai County Community Development. As you stated, this is a request by Crystal Creek LLC for the approval of a major subdivision, Garnet Ranch. The subject parcel of land is located on the west side of McGuire Road and just south of the NSF Railroad right-of-way. It consists, as you stated, of 166 acres over 3 parcels of land. The southern parcel, as you can see on the lower slide, was recently rezoned by your board from being split zoned agricultural and agricultural suburban to agricultural suburban to facilitate for this type of application to move forward in order to be subdivided.
Okay.
As you can see, based on the aerial overlay, it's fairly flat. It does have a number of utility easements on the southern part of the proposed plat, including a power line and a gas line. It was historically used for farming purposes, although I don't believe that's the case today. And I believe that in the applicant's application narrative, they stated that the agricultural pursuits are not financially feasible based on their conclusions, and therefore it would be more appropriate to be utilized for residential purposes at this time. It is fully zoned agricultural suburban. However, it is located over the aquifer. As you may recollect, the health district has a minimum requirement of 1 dwelling per 5 acres, regardless of what the underlying zoning is. So that basically means that their rules and regulations are more restrictive. Therefore, the application in this case is for a maximum of 25 lots, a minimum of 5 acres each. The comprehensive plan designation is transitional and does allow for residential uses in that designation. The subject parcel is also located within the area of city impact in the shared tier of City of Hayden, Post Falls, and Rathdrum. Article 10.7 requires that we only solicit comments from those agencies and give them 30 days to respond. However, we are not obligated to impose city infrastructure improvements. That is only in the exclusive tier. This is the proposed layout of the subject parcel. As you can see, I do not have the laser, but I'll point with my mouse. You have an intersection here of McGuire Road and Hayden
Flat.
Avenue.
Flat.
The
Just hit the little button. There you go.
And what the applicant is proposing is to extend the Hayden Avenue right-of-way up to the western property line of the subject parcel of land and terminate at this location with a sufficient fire apparatus turnaround and room for snow storage. The two larger parcels of land will be designated as open space at this time. However, these parcels will not be dedicated for the benefit of the HOA for open space purposes. It will be retained under the sole ownership of the developer for their future ability to develop these into residential parcels in the event they're able to subdivide this property to the west, given that they can have adequate infrastructure improvements in place, including water supply and other amenities available. So these will be retained under their purview or under the legal ownership of the applicant in this case.
And how big is that?
Let me double check for you. I don't have the exact number, but I believe it's,
It looks to be
each
maybe.
parcel, I think this one may be closer to 10 acres and maybe this one is, if these are 5-acre pieces, so you're probably looking maybe at 20 plus acres each. So there's no, if you're inclined, if you're concerned about the minimum lot size for open space, there's no minimum lot size for open space unless you're dealing with a conservation design subdivision, which in this case doesn't apply because it's not a conservation design. But I believe the sum of these would be probably maybe 30 acres in size.
Okay.
So they're all actual 5-acre parcels?
The proposed lots will be 5 acres.
So it's about 41 acres, those two parcels remaining?
Perhaps, right. And maybe this one is a little bit larger than 5 acres, so
Okay.
you're pretty close to that.
I've got exact numbers, Pat Braden, Civil Deputy Prosecutor.
Yeah, go ahead,
for the
Pat.
record. A15 is a revised plat. It shows tract A as being a gross acreage of 8.33 acres, then net acreage, which is the gross less right-of-way of 7.672. Then tract B would be a gross of 27.908 acres with a net of 27.2 acres.
So that's approximately 35 acres in size
All
for
right.
both.
Yes.
Okay.
They're proposing 25 lots. The subdivision will be developed in 2 phases. The reason for that being the case is only a portion of the subject property is located within the East Green Acres Irrigation District jurisdictional boundaries. So what the applicant is proposing is the eastern parcels, in this case, be connected to East Green Irrigation District. However, the remaining lots on the west side of the proposed plat will have individual wells. We certainly don't have any issue with that. They have provided the necessary documentation to show that, being that they are over the aquifer, they can get a minimum of 5 gallons per minute for those lots that will have individual wells. However, their current phasing plan is not consistent with the requirements of our code. They only have 9 lots in their second phase. It's a minor modification that would just have to include one of the lots from phase 1 into phase 2 and bring it up to 10. It's really a non-issue, but it has to be compliant with the code. We made it clear in our analysis, and the applicant has no issue with it. What that will require is it will require in phase 2 to have 2 separate ownership provisions, one of which will say one lot will have connection to East Green Irrigation District and the remaining lots will have
Wells.
individual wells.
Mhm.
Fairly simple fix. The project engineer, Drew Dittman, has no issue with that, and we believe he can move forward through the preliminary process. These are some of the photos of the property. This is McGuire Road. This is the intersection of McGuire and BNSF Railroad right-of-way. Fairly flat, fairly easily developable. We don't see that them having any issue. They will have to coordinate access to some of these double frontage lots that face two main arterials, McGuire and Hayden Avenue, with the highway district, and we don't have any issue at this time for them to move forward with the condition that the designation of access be provided on the face of PLAT. These are the agencies that provided comments. All of them can be adequately mitigated with the conditions of approval. We don't see there being any issue at this time. We only see two comments, one in support and one neutral to this request. Very limited public testimony at the HE hearing. This is the criteria that is part of the land use code for approval of major subdivision. Staff analysis. So as stated in my presentation, they will have to modify the phasing plan. They will have to comply with the agency's requirements. They will have to develop CC&Rs to address any shared infrastructure improvements. They will have to construct shared infrastructure improvements, including roads and common driveways, providing access to lots as part of each phase. And they will have to submit first phase final plat within the timely matter of 2 years of your decision.
Okay.
On August 1st, the hearing examiner heard this request, and on August 13th, they submitted a recommendation of approval. I stand for any questions that you have at this time.
Questions? Leslie? No? Vlad, I know you touched on it. If you wouldn't mind, once again, the remaining roughly 34 acres, how would that be developed? Or is there a minimum lot size? Did you say that the 5 acre minimum did not apply in that case?
No, that's incorrect, sir.
Or
So let
does
me
it?
provide further clarification. In a typical case scenario where you have open space, that is almost always conveyed for the utilization by all the property owners through the HOA CC&Rs.
Correct.
However, in this case, the applicant will retain sole ownership of this property.
Right.
They may or may not develop it, depending on whether or not they can develop property to the west that they also own. Be mindful that this property is currently located within the Hauser ACI area, which makes it more complicated for them to process it with both agencies, us and City of Hauser. Therefore, they elected not to pursue the avenue of expanding their subdivision further south, which we discussed in the past, and they elected to stay fully within the boundaries of Kootenai County outside of the ACI. I don't have the answer for you how that will be developed, but I do know that they will have to meet the minimum lot size of the health district.
That's what
Yeah.
painting on the
Correct,
Yeah.
not the underlying zone of agricultural
Precisely,
suburban.
okay, that's good enough. Yes, Director Callahan.
Commissioners, David Callahan, and it's fair to say, if this gets approved the way it is, the lots are what they are. They can't be split until they come
Right.
back with a new plat. Okay.
Okay then, if there are no further questions, can I have a motion? We're already in deliberations, so we can just proceed with the motion.
Sure. I move that we approve case number MSP 19-0001, Garnet Ranch, for preliminary approval of major subdivision.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan.
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye. Motion carried, so case number MSP 19-0001 is approved. The time is now 9:14, and we will move on to our second case. And that number is VAR 18-0005. It's a request by Rhonda Sam for 22-foot variance to the 25-foot front setback and a 5-foot variance to the 10-foot side yard setback requirements for construction of a detached garage on 0.621 acre parcel in the ag suburban zone. Take it away, Vlad.
As you just stated, Chairman Filios, this is a request by Ron to send for approval of two variances, one being a front yard variance and one being a side yard variance to a proposed detached garage on a parcel of land that has an existing residence. The subject property is located to the east of Coeur d'Alene Lake Drive. It's bisected by Silver Beach Road. It's approximately a third of an acre in size. It's located within the agricultural suburban zone. It does meet the agricultural suburban zone minimum lot size of 8,250 square feet because it was created prior to February 8th, 2005. As you may know, the current standards are 2 acres minimum. As you can see, based on this aerial overlay, this is a very steep piece of property. I'm sure all of you guys have been on Coeur d'Alene Lake Drive, and this is a cliff of I would say probably a 45-degree angle, so 100% slope. Slopes here reach between about 40 and 80% just to the west of the existing residence on the property. They would like to locate the garage to the north of the existing residence on site. As you may know, the current code requires that setbacks from existing roads that are not within a defined right-of-way be located, or the setbacks be measured 25 feet from the center line of an existing road, 25 feet back to the front of the facade. So you would have a 50-foot distance from the center line of the road where any structure could be constructed. What the applicant is proposing is they would like to be within 3 feet of the 25-foot distance from the center line of the road, and therefore they're requesting a 22-foot front yard variance. They would also like to be located 5 feet from the northern property line, and the reason for that is they cannot attach the garage to the existing residence simply because there are a multitude of connections such as gas and power line on the north side of the property, and they need to keep a distance so they don't have to incur an expense of moving them elsewhere. That is cost prohibitive. Moreover, it's part of the record, the engineer on the project, structural engineer on the project, had stated that because of steep slopes and because of this structure being over 50 years old, they're concerned that any attachment of a new structure could possibly jeopardize the existing foundation in terms of excavation and physical attachment. They had recommended that the garage be detached and it be constructed as close as possible to the road so that there is very minimal excavation on slopes that exceed, in this case, 40% grade. Because they're concerned it could cause there to be fractures in the foundation and footings, and they would request that that be avoided. This is the proposed conceptual building elevation of the structure. They originally contemplated having a residential unit on the second floor. They had since retracted that desire to just have it as storage area. We certainly don't have any issue with that because it doesn't change their request. These are some of the photos of the property. So the garage would be located in this location where you can see the boat. This is very steep, as you can see, based on overview from land and also from the water. We did solicit comments from agencies. There were some concerns at the beginning, but through the review and assessment by the Highway District and the Fire Department, we made sure as staff that those agencies were comfortable with the proposal. The Fire District only required that they have a no parking sign in front of the garage so that if the vehicle is parked in front of the garage. It doesn't impede the road, the driving surface of Silver Beach Loop. We certainly don't have that issue. They didn't specify the location of it, but we will make sure that the no parking sign is in place as coordinated by the fire district prior to finalizing the permit for the garage. It's also located, the property is located within the city of Coeur d'Alene area of city impact. The city had no issue with the proposal. We received a total of 3 comments, 1 in support, 1 neutral, and 1 opposed. No reasoning as to opposition, other than they just perhaps don't like the request. These are the findings for a variance in order for it to be approved. The key highlights of approving a variance is, do you have a physical hardship, in this case steep slopes, and B, is it the minimum variance needed in order for the project to be approved? And in this case, the letter from the structural engineer clearly supports the location of this so as to minimize the structural integrity of both the residence and the proposed garage. Staff analysis: steep slopes. The property is bisected by an existing public road which requires setbacks on both sides of the road. The area is prone to have unstable soil conditions, and there's limited area to construct a garage without requiring or having an approved variance. The hearing examiner heard the request on August 1st and subsequently recommended approval. Stand for any questions that you may have.
So there really is no parking area
Yeah.
in front of the garage?
And that's what I'm thinking too.
There is limited area. I don't believe that with a no parking sign and the vehicle being parked inside the garage.
Right, okay. That's, so that's what I'm talking about. I mean, there's really actually not a area for that. I mean, it's,
Yeah, because.
To be clear,
Go ahead.
if this gets approved the way we're requesting, they won't be allowed to park there.
Right.
So even though they may physically be spaced, it'd be a violation of the variance,
okay.
which will put us in the peculiar position of having to enforce our condition of approval on the variance. But that's entirely reasonable. Conditions can be made for variances.
Sure, sure.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, to Leslie's point, if the norm is a 25-foot setback,
Mhm.
and you're getting a variance for 22, that leaves 3 feet.
That's the issue. That's why
So
the fire guys
basically, to
don't want to park.
Leslie's point, there is no parking in front of the garage. If the vehicle's either inside or parked
That's
outside
right.
somewhere. Okay.
Correct. And Chairman Filius, just to clarify, you are 3 feet away from the imaginary 50-foot right-of-way line. You're not 3 feet away from the driving surface, and that's a clear distinction that needs to be
Okay.
Yeah.
made. So the driving surface is much narrower.
Yeah,
and so-
because normally the highway districts will claim a right-of-way that goes 30 feet from the center line. So it's basically encroaching a certain amount into the property. So, to your point, I believe.
Well, my point is even if they did not follow the no parking sign, which we hope they wouldn't, but if they didn't, you still have greater than 3 feet
Yes,
to the
yes,
actual
yes.
driving surface, just to.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
As long as the applicant's okay with the conditions and will abide by them, and if the property's sold, that the people are very well aware that they don't get to park in front of their garage.
That would be one to pass on to the buyer.
Yeah.
Bill, any questions?
None.
Motion?
I move that we approve case number VAR 18-0005, a request by Ron DeSand for the 22-foot variance from the front and 5 from the side.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan.
Aye.
Chairman Filios.
Aye. So case number VAR 18-0005 is approved. The time is now 9:25 a.m. and this concludes the deliberations section of today's meeting.
They don't switch.
Oh,
Not yet, no.
okay. So can we move on to signings? All right, so the next item is case number VAC 18-0001 from McGuire Estates. And this is a signing, a partial plat variance of 0.78 parcel, originally dedicated as a public park, in the plat of McGuire Estates, recorded in Book E, page 217, on June 17th, 1976. Is there a motion to execute the order of decision?
Yes, I move that we execute the order of decision in case number VAC 18-0001.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Duncan.
Aye.
Chairman Philios.
Aye. Motion carried. We're executing the order of decision for VAC 18-0001. Okay, so now we can move on to public comment. Hearing none, 9:26, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Commissioner.
For once, glad